Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah McIntyre. And I'm just doing a follow-up to my Ouch podcast because, again, so much has changed. And this is something that I want to be honest about and I want to share with you all because this is how it works on the spiritual journey. It's not without bumps and lumps and twists and turns. And I know I've said that before, but when I first started working with the spirit world, it was almost in a kind of prescriptive way that when I got to a certain level of connection, when I became myself spiritual enough, the bumps in the path would even out and it would just always be amazing. But that's not true. That's not how it works. Well, certainly not how it works for me anyway. So, thank you for all the lovely messages. You guys are the kindest, the sweetest, the nicest. I'm so grateful. I'm really grateful. And there's a bit of me, if I'm completely honest, that just wants to delete said Ouch podcast and hide from it because I was having a real reaction when I recorded it. I was right in the energy of it. But then I also think that's important, is it not? Anyway. I'm doing a follow-up now, so it shall remain because, as always, it is a journey. So I've had lots of messages of support, but what's been really interesting, and you can really see the spirit world at play here, has been the number of people that have messaged me that haven't listened to that podcast to tell me what a great night it was. So this is where it gets a little interesting, isn't it? I felt like it wasn't a great night. I felt very uncomfortable. I was having a big reaction within me. And in the way that us humans do, my assumption was that everybody in the audience could feel that. But it turns out they couldn't. I don't think they could. Or not everybody could. And of course, as with all demonstrations, there were some people there that had their list of things that they wanted to hear and didn't get their tick boxes ticked. But I've had people message me to say how amazing it was, even though they didn't get a message and how much they loved it. Just as a by the way. Not because they've listened to the podcast. And I have to say, if I'm absolutely truthful, it was one of my best nights ever for feedback. People stayed afterwards to tell me how much they liked it. People came up to me in the interval to tell me how much they liked it. So that means that everything I went through was within me. And what if the purpose of that entire crushing experience was so that I would look at things afresh and work out what I want and how I want it to be. So that's where I'm kind of at the moment. Again, trying to surrender, still on the void, but actually, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And Amanda messaged me to say, isn't it interesting that it took that experience for me to then share with you all what I really want to do, the nights that I really want to create. And of course, within that, there is the evidence that I have not been allowing myself that, I've not been creating that. In somewhere along the line here, I have told myself that the only way to be able to get to what I want to do is to follow the path that I'm currently following. And maybe that entire night and that reaction within me was to get me to wake up and realise that I can create what I want now. And I'm still going to be demonstrating. I'm not saying I'm not going to be demonstrating, but maybe, and I'm not saying I'm not going to be travelling around doing the demonstrations, but I think it's going to be much more intimate smaller venues, connecting with people. Because for me, this work is about connection. And not just connection with the spirit world, but connection with people. And yeah, it's great to stand in front of a really large audience. It looks amazing in photos. Let's be honest here. It looks good. It feels exciting. I'm finally living my full Britney fantasy. But it's not true for me. It's not true for what I want. It's not true for the experience I want people to have. Because for me, the really beautiful thing that happens in mediumship happens when people feel safe. And you get that lovely open, I was talking about the Care Bears and the blockage and that's harder to achieve when you're in a big audience, because people feel more exposed. They feel like there's more people there. They feel intimidated by it. So if I know that, which I do, then it's about creating a space which works for me and feels safe for my audience so that they can express. And I decided to stop thinking about it all yesterday because, as you can imagine, it's been whirring around. And I was lying in the garden trying to sunbathe and sleep. And just as I was drifting off, I had the thought, one of the things that I really want to incorporate, but I'm just not sure how to yet, is the bit where we explain what the evidence means. And this isn't just about my ego and looking like I've hit really good evidence, although, yeah, part of it is it's lovely to know what these things mean. But it's also about the audience understanding the validity of why that piece of evidence is so important and so specific. So I wanted to share something that happened in a one-on-one reading recently. Absolutely amazing sitter. She was so open, so happy just to have an experience and work together and collaborate. That's what I want. And I had her mum through, and I was seeing roses and ashes. Roses and ashes. And I knew that she'd been cremated, so I knew that part. But I felt like there was something to do with roses and her ashes. And it's so weird when you have that experience from the spirit world, because it is just like a flash of a rose in my head, and then there's just a knowing of ashes. So it is very much like charades. You're trying to put those two things together and work out what they mean. Anyway, the sitter didn't understand roses and ashes, didn't get it, didn't know what I was talking about. And I turned back to her mum and said, what have I got wrong? Because that's, it's always me, it's never the spirit world. And her mum went, nope, roses, ashes, that's what I got back. Again, exactly the same. And I thought, okay. And I said to her, there's no rose been planted in memory of her? No. And she said, there was roses at her funeral. And I said, no, this is post her funeral, it can't be that. And I went, well, that's weird, but she's not changing it. And then the mum said, or I felt, she doesn't really speak to me, but you know what I mean. This isn't an instruction. And I felt really clearly that I had to say that. This isn't an instruction. She's not asking you to put her ashes by a rose. It's not an instruction. It is evidential. She said, well, it was, I can't work that out, Hannah. I said, okay. And we moved on and we did other things and it was fine. And then the next day she emailed me, and she'd been talking to her daughter about it, and she suddenly realised that the container her mum's ashes are in has got a rose on the front of it. And that's where it was. And she hadn't been thinking about that and remembering that. So that's really lovely, wonderful evidence from the spirit world. That's the kind of stuff I really like, because I know that was from spirit, and I haven't picked that up psychically out of her energy because she's not aware of it, if that makes sense. Anyway, that kind of thing. They're the kind of wow moments that maybe to somebody else talking about ashes in a rose doesn't sound that specific. There are lots of people whose ashes are scattered under a rose. I'm pretty sure my nan's ashes are scattered under a rose. It's not, you go, oh well, yeah, well, that happens to most people. But actually that whole experience that unfolded from that is pretty amazing. Now, obviously, that was the next day and she had to have time to think about it. But there were elements of things the other night where people came up to me and explained why those things were so important that made it make more sense. Or not make more sense, because it made sense, but made it more profound, made you really understand. And somehow I want to incorporate in my evenings an opportunity for people to give that feedback, to be able to say, well, the reason that they came in tap dancing with jazz hands is because they were a black and white minstrel. The reason why foot rubbing is so important is that because she'd been asking me to do that for years and I didn't want to, and then I did it because I felt like I had to towards the end of her life because she was unwell. So, and it wouldn't it be lovely for the whole of the audience to hear that and understand it rather than just me. It just makes it more collaborative. It makes everybody understand it more. So what I have to do here at this point is not work out how that's going to happen, because this is the problem. I keep getting stuck in the hows and trying to create it. So I've got to understand that's what I want to do. I understand now that I'm still going to do some big events, but generally speaking, what I want to do is work on a smaller scale with people, more intimate, more connection, and do that. Yeah. So my work now is just knowing that's what I want, getting that clarity on what I want, and then allowing the plan for that to come into fruition without getting in the way of it, which, as you guys know, is not my forte. So yeah, I'm feeling, as always with these things, still like there's quite a lot of me liquidated, but it's good. It feels like things are starting to form, but I mustn't push it. I must just allow it. So that's what I'm trying to do. But isn't it interesting that a night that to the audience, and I'm not saying every person in the audience, because I know there were some people that weren't impressed. People don't leave halfway through a demonstration if they're impressed. But the majority really were. And people were so, I mean, they messaged me for no reason apart from to say how much they loved it. And that's not just one person, there's been a few. So that means that the problem is all in me. Oh, God. That could be just written on my gravestone, not that I want a grave, but it could be just the problem was all me. Here lies Hannah. The problem was all me. But that's what it's all about. And I wanted to share something because in amongst the many emails that you lovely people have sent me, I got an email from Karen, and I just wanted to read it out because this one, there's something that really resonated with me in here. Great podcast. So happy to hear you valuing yourself. Abraham told Esther Hicks early on that the people listening to their teachings were leading edge people. She wouldn't be speaking their teachings to the whole world, only those that were ready to hear it. You've probably heard that one before, but it stuck with me. With my own spiritual practice, I too have decided that I will only work with people who value me and my services. You are such a bright light in the spiritual world. Don't let those who are not a vibrational match to you bring you down. We love you and all your work. No need to reply, just wanted to let you know. And wow, Karen, wow. I had never heard that about Abraham Hicks and Esther. So, and that really helped me, you sending that. So I'm so grateful because that's exactly what it's about, isn't it? It's about refining it. And there is that kind of thing with spirituality where you almost want to try and save everybody, bring in the masses, come on everybody. And this is always my problem. This is always my dialogue, is part of me is permanently attuned to heal the world and bring everybody in and saviour complex. Oh, geez. And actually, this is about giving myself permission to put that part down and just work with the right people. And I would rather have an amazing, collaborative, enlightening experience with 10 people than I would a uncomfortable, pressured, stressful experience with 100. And I know that. So why have I been fighting that? So there we go. It's only a short one, but I just wanted to give you all an update because people keep messaging me saying, "You okay, hon?" And I feel like I've been, I don't want to be one of those people, the people that put on Facebook, "Oh my God, can't believe this has happened. My life is over." And then everyone goes, "What's happened?" And they go, "Oh, PM me, babes. I'll give you all the details." I don't want to be that person. I've never really appreciated that. But I also want to be real. So there's a little bit of me cringing that I did that podcast when it was so raw and I was so shaky and all of that. But then you too will have moments when you're feeling like that and it's not something that can be fixed. And actually, what if it is the fix? What if all of this and all of that heartache and all of those tears and all of that pain was a way of the spirit world getting me to open up to a new way of working that otherwise I would have denied? And this is always a problem when there's something that you want to do that you don't see other people doing. I don't see evidential mediums doing those kind of collaborative nights where people in the audience can ask their questions, want their advice, need their guidance. I don't ever see anyone doing that, but that doesn't mean that it's, oh God, hello ego. My brain just went, yeah, but if you don't see anyone else doing it, that's because that's exactly the process we all have, isn't it? We're all conditioned to think if nobody else is doing it, then there must be something wrong with my idea. And it's about being brave and following that through. So yeah, there we go. Another exploration to the witterings of my mind. Normal service will be resumed shortly. It's Mediumship Natters tomorrow night, and I've got an absolutely amazing question to force upon my colleagues and find their points of view on. And I've got another great interview with somebody lined up to release for you too. So have a great day, and I will catch up with you all soon.